Since the last overview video of Relight, we've added a lot of stuff, so we thought it was time for a new one. Let's get started. So this is the Relight homepage. Now, and this is what we call the Omnibar. You can type pretty much anything in here, and Relight's going to do its best to figure out what you meant and try to take you where you want to go. Now, in Relight, there are basically two ways to study. You can either study from a Bible first perspective, or a biblical or an exegetical study, or you can study from a theological perspective. We're going to go over both in this video, but we're going to start with the Bible first or the biblical study because that's what most people are accustomed to in most Bible apps. So you can start by typing a passage in here, or you can scroll down and select a Bible. Right now we only have the King James Version and the Greek New Testament, but I was actually working yesterday on adding support for the Hebrew Old Testament. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the English Bible since that's the one that I know how to read. And just like with a lot of Bible software, you can scroll down here and tap on a book and then tap on a chapter and it'll take you there. Pretty simple. But you can also, from the home page, just type something in here that can honestly be pretty cryptic. You can be really hurried. Like if you're ever writing down and your pastor references a verse, you might just write something crazy like GN3 space 16, and hopefully you're going to come back later and remember that was Genesis 3:16. You can do that here, and Relight will generally figure out what you want. So I'm just going to type JN and then the number 3 and then a space, or I could have done a dot, and then 16, and I'll just hit enter, and it's going to take me straight to John 3:16. Now, Relight is not really built to be a reading app, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. I did the typography. I think it's pretty nice. I like to just read the Bible in Relight. But that's really not what it's mainly for. Relight is mainly a study tool. And to get access to all the study tools, pretty much no matter where you are going to tap on the light bulb icon. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. And that's going to bring up quite a lot of stuff here. So the first thing that you'll see here is, well, you can see on the right, you have the opportunity to just share. We have a lot of share features. I'm not going to get into them in this video, but if you see the share button, that little share icon, anywhere on the site, you can tap that and it's going to give you the content of what's in there, and it's also going to give you a link, so it's really easy to share stuff on social media if you're the kind of person who likes to get into arguments and you want to send them scripture or something from the Westminster Confession or what have you. We try to make that as easy as possible. Anyway, that's not really a study feature. Cross-references are a study feature. So these cross-references are actually, and we've gone over this in I think it might have been our very first video. These cross-references are from John Brown of Haddington, who was a Presbyterian pastor who, rather than, you look at a lot of cross-references and you see they're kind of built to resolve the question of like, what verses might be related to this verse, or what verses might use similar words or phrases that are found in this verse. John Brown of Haddington, he set out to try to answer the question of what verses are going to help you interpret the verse that you're currently reading. So to that end, he actually called his Bible with all of its cross-references the self-interpreting Bible, because he was very much interested in helping you interpret Scripture with Scripture. So, and that's pretty simple here. We've got all these cross-references. You can just tap on one of them to view it, tap to close. Pretty simple. Next up, we have some original languages features. Now, these are recent and new within the last, I'm going to say 3 or 4 months. The first thing you'll see here is word study. You'll also see this info icon that has some information here and a link to a Ligonier icon about how to do word studies or how not to do word studies. But we'll go ahead and we will just tap word study. And so now what you can see is each word here has its own block. And these are tied to the English. So you're studying from an English perspective and you're asking the question, what is the Greek or the Hebrew word, Greek in this case, behind the word that I'm currently studying? Now, we did a whole video on the word study feature 2 videos ago, so I'm not going to get too far into it, but you should just know that you can tap on a word to see more information about it. You can get the definition, the etymology. You can see other places that it's used. It'll go ahead now. This is actually since the video that we made on the word study feature, we've added it now. It's actually, you can see it's highlighting, or bolding rather, the where the word is used. So you can see how of God is bolded there. So that's the word study feature. And again, there's another video that gets more into that. We'll go ahead and close out of that, and we will click Read Greek Text. So if you're like me, it's all Greek to you. That's the mandatory joke. There's actually an obligation on YouTube. You have to make that joke. But you can read the Greek text there. Another thing you could do if you wanted to, I'm not going to hit enter here, is type in something like GNT for Greek New Testament, John 3, and that's going to take you to the whole chapter in Greek. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. I'm not going to hit the next button on the omnibar up at the top there. And lastly, you can study the Greek text. So this is a lot like word study, but rather than coming at it from the perspective of what is the Greek word behind this English word, this is, you're looking at a block for each Greek word. So the word order is going to correspond to the Greek, and you're looking at a block for each Greek word, and you're trying to understand more about that word. So you see here you have lemma. Lemma is a fancy word that kind of gets at the idea of the root of the word, or the in English with verbs we have the idea of the infinitive form. So you might have the word drove. The infinitive form of drove is to drive. It's the unmodified version of the word. And then you have this morphology information, which is basically, it's going to tell you, like the part of speech, it's going to tell you information about it. So if I tap on one of these, you can see it's going to bring up information on not just the root of this word, but the current form of the word. So if you think about the word to drive in English, maybe you're looking at, if you were doing a study in English, you might look at the word drove and you would see, oh, drove is a verb, and here it's occurring in the past tense, right? So this is the same thing, but in Greek, and in Greek there's a lot more information here. So we see that this word is a verb. The tense is aorist. In English we have like past, present, and future. Greek has some other tenses that we don't have. The voice is active. The mood is indicative. The person is third, so it's third person, and it is singular. We also have the lemma here, which again in English you're thinking like to drive as the infinitive form, or the lemma. And then we also have the etymology, which I mentioned that in word study. That's the word origin, information on where the word comes from. And again, you can see other places where the word is used. Now, I don't know Greek, so I'm not going to tell you a lot more about this. But if you do know Greek, you probably understand how to use this better than I do. And you may have some feature requests because I don't know what I'm doing in implementing these features. I'm relying heavily on some friends to help me. But if you have any thoughts on how this Greek feature is implemented, please let us know in the comments. Next up, we have commentaries, and that's going to be pretty quick. We can just tap on one to open it, and we can read it in line. And that's about that. There's also a share button just on the commentary, so if you wanted to just link somebody to Calvin's commentary on a passage, you can do that. Tap to close. And lastly, in terms of studying from a scripture first, or a Bible first, or a biblical perspective, or exegetical, there's so many words for that, we have this related here. Now this, I think, is one of Relight's most interesting and novel features. It's something that I use on a regular basis, and the idea here is, if you've ever gone to the back of the back of a book, like Calvin's Institutes, or honestly, a lot of even paperbacks will have this. If you've ever gone to the back of the book, you'll see a scripture index, and it'll tell you, oh, you know, John 3:16 is used on page 242 and 147 or whatever. That's an index of all the scripture references that are found in the book. This is the other way around, right? So rather than going to each book that you own and looking at the scripture reference and trying to figure out, oh, does this book reference John 3:16? Oh, it does here. This one, you know, all of that. Here, this does all of that work for you, kind of like a research assistant. And it will tell you everywhere that this verse is referenced in all of the resources across all of Relight's ever-expanding library. That sounded too marketing-y, I'm sorry. So you can see here that this verse was referenced in the Institutes of the Christian Religion 6 times. You can see that it was referenced in the Westminster Larger Catechism 3 times. And you can just tap here, and you can see all the places where it was referenced, and I can just tap on one of these. And you can see kind of what the Westminster Divines thought this verse could be used to prove. Again, you can do that, the same thing with the Institutes of the Christian Religion. And again, there's a link right there to see that reference in context. So you could go to the paragraph where this is found and read the surrounding paragraphs if you wanted. So that is backlinks. They can be really incredibly useful, I think, for getting an idea, especially when you look at documents like the Westminster Standards, of what the Reformed tradition believes about a certain verse, like what the Reformed tradition believes a certain verse may or may not prove. So that can be really helpful. All right, so now it is time to demonstrate studying theologically. Now, this is probably the coolest and most unique feature in Relight, in Sarah's and my opinion. Lots of Bible apps will let you study. You can't shake your phone while you're talking. Lots of Bible apps will let you study from a biblical perspective. Go to a chapter or a verse in Scripture and find out what the various commentaries have to say, find out information about the words in the passage through word study or through Bible dictionaries. Lots of apps will do that. There's plenty on the market, and honestly, some of them are really good. But what Relight set out to do from the beginning was let you study not just John 3:16, but study God's love, or study salvation, or soteriology is the theological term for that. And to that end, we have a very large library. Well, it's not very large. We hope that it's going to one day be very large. Right now, it's large-ish. We have a large-ish library of resources, including things like the Institutes of the Christian Religion, Matthew Henry's commentary on the Westminster Shorter Catechism. Obviously, we have the Westminster Confession of Faith, the Shorter Catechism, the Larger Catechism, Benjamin Keach's Catechism, which is a Baptist catechism, the 1689 London Baptist Confession. We have the Belgic Confession, the Heidelberg Catechism, the Canons of Dort. And we set out to try to let you study these things from a theological perspective. So everything in here is kind of organized by category. You've got these other resources, you've got Bible commentaries, you've got confessions and catechisms. We're going to go ahead and take a look here at the Westminster Confession of Faith. So you can scroll down, and we have the chapter number and the title of each chapter, and you can just tap here and go straight to that chapter. But you can also Relight. One of the goals is to make it really quick and easy. Maybe you're in Sunday school or a Bible study and you're trying to just kind of hop around. Relight tries to make it really easy for you to do that, to get to where you want to go. So at the top here, you can see it's pre-populated, it's pre-filled WCF here, and it's suggesting that I try something like WCF 1.1 or WCF 5. So I could type in here WCF 5, and it's going to take me right there. But I don't even have to go to the WCF page to do that. I can just type WCF space 7.2. And actually, as of a recent update, I don't even need that space. I can literally just type WCF 7.2 and hit enter, and it is going to take me right there and scroll me down to Article 2. Now, the example that I actually wanted to use was an example from the Westminster Shorter Catechism about baptism, because I thought, what's the point of this video if I can't rustle some jimmies? So I'm going to tap here, and I am going to type in, oh, by the way, if you're wondering why it says Relight at the top there, it's because I have a dedicated Safari tab group for Relight. So all my studying just takes place in this Safari tab group. I'm going to do a video on, we don't have a proper app, it's a web app right now, but I'm going to do a video at some point in the future on all the different ways that you can kind of get around the fact that Relight doesn't have its own dedicated app. But for now, here's one. You can create a tab group called Relight and put all your Relight tabs in it. I like to do that. You don't have to, but something I like to do. Anyway, I want to rustle some Baptist jimmies, so I need to find that catechism question that says that children of believers are supposed to be baptized. I don't remember the question number, because I could, if I knew it, I could just type WSC 99 or whatever it is, but I don't remember what it is. So I'm going to type WSC baptism in here, and what that's going to do is it's actually going to search this resource. You can see it's selected, the Westminster Shorter Catechism. It's going to search this for the word baptism. And you can do that with any resource. You can type in something like WCF space baptism, or you can type in LBCF baptism to search the London Baptist Confession, and it'll pre-populate in here. So if you start typing the name of something, like let's say I wanted to search the Heidelberg, and I don't know how to spell that, I can just tap on it, and then I could search baptism. And if I hit enter, it would do that, but I don't want to do that. I want to go straight to Westminster Shorter Catechism, question 95, to whom is baptism to be administered? And I'll tap see context to pull that up. So now we are looking at question 95, And again, you can just use Relight to read, but there are study features here as indicated by the light bulb icon. Before we get to the light bulb icon, I want to show you that you can tap on or click on, if you're on a computer, one of these footnotes. So you see it says, and obedience unto him. If I tap on one, it's going to pull up and show me what proof texts there are for that, and I can just tap on the proof text to read that verse. I can close out of that. Next up, we do have, again, a light bulb icon here. And if I tap that, we can see we have all of the footnotes for all of the, not just for footnote 1, but for footnote 2 as well. Those are listed out here. There is a share button. And again, I'm not going to get too far into that, but you can kind of customize the layout however you want and use that, again, if you're trying to rustle some jimmies on Facebook maybe. So you can share catechism questions and really anything throughout the site you should just be able to share. Anyway, we also have a commentary on the Westminster Shorter Catechism. We have here Matthew Henry's Shorter Catechism commentary. Now, Matthew Henry was kind of one of the original yo dog I heard you like, because he heard that people liked questions and answers in the form of catechisms. So he actually wrote a bunch of questions and answers on the questions and answers in the Shorter Catechism. It's honestly a really cool resource to help you understand what the Shorter Catechism is saying. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. So we also have, right now our offerings in terms of commentaries on other resources than the Bible are a little bit slim, but we do have a commentary, Robert Shaw's commentary on the Westminster Confession of Faith. So if you were reading the Westminster Confession of Faith, his commentary would show up here. And then we also have this related feature. Now, related is a feature, again, you could tap the little info icon here to learn more, but I'm going to explain it because this is a YouTube video and that's why I'm here. With related, you could tap load related content, and what it's going to try to do is it's going to try to look through all of Relight's resources and find bits of content, paragraphs, confession articles, other catechism questions that are related to what you're currently reading. It does this through two means. One is it asks the question, what are other things that link to a lot of the same verses that this particular piece of content links to? I hope that made sense. It's asking the question like, well, this one links to Acts 8, 36, 37, Acts 2:38, Genesis 17:10, and it's going to try to find other paragraphs that link to a bunch of the same things that this one links to. So I'm just gonna the other way that it tries to do it is by looking for similar wording. It's trying to find things that are saying that it thinks are saying the same thing. That feature is pretty new and pretty rough. I think it does a good job, but it could turn up a lot more results than it currently does. I'm working on revamping a lot of how Relight's content works to make it much, much better at finding things that are related based off of word and phrasing. Anyway, we'll tap related content. You can see here, the first result here is Westminster Larger Catechism 166. You'll find that happens often if you're in the Shorter Catechism and there's a larger catechism that asks the same question, unto whom is baptism to be administered. It's the case that that's going to show up here. And this actually has a slightly longer and more in-depth answer. So that could be really helpful if you read the Shorter Catechism question and answer and you're thinking, gee, I want more information. Being able to pull up the Larger Catechism question can be really helpful. We also see Robert Shaw's exposition of the Westminster Confession of Faith. So this is pretty interesting. Chapter 28 of the Westminster Confession is about baptism. And this is where Robert Shaw talks about basically infant baptism, like who, not just infant baptism, but who baptism is to be administered to writ large. So that's a pretty neat feature in my opinion, because this is just giving you might have thought to go, well, gee, if I'm studying baptism, and I'm studying it in the Shorter Catechism and I want to know more, I should go to chapter 28 of the Westminster Confession, because that talks about baptism. And while you were there, you might have thought to go to Robert Shaw's commentary on Article 4, because that's where Robert Shaw would talk about who baptism is to be administered to. But this just brought it up right there for you, because it thought, hey, you might want this. It might be related. So that is the related content feature. One last feature that is worth mentioning is search. So I demonstrated that you can search a specific resource by typing something like WCF baptism. But I did just want to point out that you also can just type the word baptism, or just type the word spirit, or just type, whatever your search term is, and hit enter. And you're going to get results from all over the website, every resource that we have, including the Bible. And you can restrict the search, you can filter the search, you can order the search, pretty much any way that you want. And we're working on some more features for search. This is how it works right now. I'm working on a really big revamp, hopefully within the next year or so. We'll see. But yeah, Relight does let you search the entire thing as well as individual resources. And if you want to just search the Bible real quick, you can just type B for Bible space and then something like Spirit and hit enter, and it's going to just search the Bible and only show you Bible results. I can order by, it's trying to order by relevance right now. I can order by occurrence if I want. And then we've got Genesis 1, Genesis 6, Genesis 41, etc. That about sums it up for Relight and all of its major features. There's a lot that we could have talked about, and I kind of started to get into it by accident here at the end in terms of search, in terms of the omnibar. I like to think these are some of the really powerful features that, honestly, they deserve their own video, so we will be diving into that in future videos. But for right now, I thought this would be a good general overview of how Relight works. Maybe you already knew most of this stuff. Maybe that is a sign that you should just share this video with your friend so that they can learn about Relight and learn how to use it. Regardless, thank you for watching. I hope that you will hit the like button. The like button's probably around here. Hope that you'll hit the like button. I hope that you will consider subscribing. We like to push updates to Relight pretty frequently. I think we've averaged like 1.5 updates a month for this year of 2022. So if you want to keep up on that, Twitter and Instagram are some really great places. They'll be in the show, in the description below. Twitter and Instagram are pretty good places to keep up on that. I like to tweet as I'm working on features. We've also got a feature in beta testing right now that lets you listen to the resources out loud. Kind of a machine learning voice reads them to you, and in my opinion does a pretty good job. If you're interested in testing that out, there is a community to discuss Relight called Relight.chat. You can sense a theme here. Relight.chat will hook you up with other Relight users. You can talk about it, you can suggest features, you can suggest resources, you can also give feedback on the betas. And that is where you will find the link to learn how to become a beta tester for Relight. So check all of those links in the description. There's also obviously going to be a link to Relight itself. And check back soon for more updates because we've got more exciting stuff coming. Thanks for watching.